The Pledge of Allegiance, and Gerald Cook will do that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Gerald. Tonight our invocation is by Reverend Jim DeGraw, Grace Fellowship Church. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you. Honored to be here. Lord Jesus, I'm just reminded of a wonderful prayer that the Apostle Paul prayed for the church at Colossae. He said, I'm praying that you would be filled with the knowledge of His will, of God's will, with all spiritual wisdom and understanding, that we may walk worthy of the Lord, please Him in every way, be fruitful in every good work. This is what we'd like to ask this evening of you, Lord Jesus, as well. This mayor, this wonderful city council, the amazing people of the city of Stephenville. We want to know your heart. We want to know your passion, your deep desire and longing to bless us in every way. Want to know that well. We'd like to have wisdom and understanding, to understand how your heart can actually be assimilated into our choices and decisions this evening. And so we'd ask that would come about, that we would know your heart, that we would have clarity and wisdom to make good choices, and that we would walk worthy of you in every way. The Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord God enthroned in heaven, that we would know that blessing, that you would be pleased in every way, and that we would be fruitful in every good work. It's what we long for. It's what you want for us, to be successful, to be fruitful in every way. And so we're asking for that blessing to come, for your honor, for your glory, and for our joy in you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. We have two presentations tonight. First one we're going to do is the Keep Stephenville Beautiful. Where's Darren? Going up here, being this one. We're going to let y'all make a presentation.
All right. My name is Jill Burke, and I'm here representing Keep Stephenville Beautiful and the board. We have board members sitting here on the front row, and Darren is also a board member. We're back for a second year, so I hope you will allow that, because we have money. We are here to present a check in the amount of $5,000, and that is for the all-inclusive playground that we're very pleased to support. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. I'll be Darren's. Thank you all. Got the bill, right? The community has really adopted that program, and it's had lots of donations. Thank you all very much. Next items, I'm going to let Laura get up, and she said she'll do it in less than 3 minutes.
I can do that.
Laura Gambino.
Good evening. My name is Laura Gambino. I'm the Executive Director for Cross Timbers Family Services here across the square in downtown Stephenville. And I'm here just to represent basically a coalition of agencies who are uniting together for an event next week, April 13th, on the square. This will be our second year to be on the square, and I want to encourage y'all to attend. We are uniting for the cause of discussing the topic of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is April, along with Child Abuse Awareness Month, which is April, and National Crime Victims Week, which is the week of April 23rd through 29th. So we have a logo that combines those three advocacies, and we just want to encourage the community to get behind that event. It's just to spread awareness about those crimes in our community. And we will be doing booths on the square. They will be kid-friendly. We will have first responders from the sheriff's office to Stephenville Police Department. All law enforcement agencies will be involved. We'll have county officials, and we'll read the proclamation and do some things that support victims of crime. So we encourage you to attend and bring your children. It's entirely free. And we will be doing booths that basically educate the community about resources for victims of violent crime.
Thank you. I want to read the proclamation we have here before we make a presentation. Whereas the National Crime Victims' Rights Week was established in 1981 by President Ronald Reagan as part of an effort to bring attention and support to victims of crime, and is being observed the week of April 23rd through 29th, 2023, with the theme of Survivor Voices, Elevate, Engage, Effect Change. To recognize victims of crime in the United States, National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to ensuring that accessible, appropriate, and trauma-informed services are offered to all victims of crime. And whereas in 1983, April was designated as National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and our community acknowledged that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, nurturing environment. And whereas National Sexual Assault Awareness Month was first nationally recognized in April 2001 as an effort to bring awareness about sexual assault and educate communities and individuals on prevention of sexual violence. And whereas our community has dedicated individuals and organizations to work daily to counter the problems and provide resources to victims of violent crimes, child abuse and neglect, and sexual assault. And whereas since the passage of the Victim of Crimes Act in 1984, and through the dedicated work of advocates, lawmakers, victims, service providers, there is a growing array of services and resources available to victims and their loved ones. And whereas Stop the Silence has been created to combine awareness of these causes in Erath County, now therefore reaffirming this, the City of Stephenville, the City of Dublin, Erath County, and Tarleton State University commit to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crimes throughout the year, and do hereby proclaim this week, April 23rd through 29th, as Crime Victims Week. Now, the proclamation has the 4 signatures of the mayor, the president of the university, the county judge, and David Leatherwood, mayor of Dublin. Let's go ahead and let's take a picture. Where did you get that t-shirt?
I can sew you one.
Everyone up here is going to buy one.
Yes.
Everyone is going to order right up here.
So they're available for $16 from Cross Timbers Family Services.
Everybody's going to buy one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Call our office.
There you go. Those are the fun things about being mayor. Okay, next item is citizens' general discussion. Do we have anybody that wants to speak? We have one person signed up for one item in a minute. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the next item, which is regular agenda. Consider approval of variance request of the City of Stephenville Code of Ordinances, Section 130.16, sale of alcohol beverages for Don Nico's Restaurant located at 966 West Washington.
Don Nico's on Washington has submitted their TABC permit. Previously, they had the private club registration since 2009. So the TABC and our code of ordinances require 300 feet from a school or a church. They are 151 feet from Central Elementary. So they're just requesting the variance to that code so that they can continue selling alcohol.
Question?
They were granted a variance back in the day when they did their private club permit by council, and so just because of the change in permit, it requires a variance to be issued again.
Any questions?
We did one of these, it may not have been the same type of variance, but it was door to door, was how that one was measured, and this one's property line to property line.
It,
What's the difference?
in different ordinances, they're written different ways. This one has to match what's written in the TABC code.
Okay.
And it's written that way.
So a church is door to door, a school is property line to property line.
Right.
So have they continually sold alcohol?
Yes, sir.
So everything is,
Yes, sir.
Other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the variance request as it's been presented.
Second?
Have a motion is second. Further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Next item is to consider approval of opioid settlement with the State of Texas Office of the Attorney General.
Yes, sir. If council will recall, in the past few months, we've done this a couple of times, and the Texas Attorney General has reached settlements with different companies on the national opioid settlement from Department of Justice and different states' Attorney General. They've reached another one, and so the mayor's got the form. This one's with 4 new companies, with Walgreens, Walmart, Allergen, and CVS. And I believe the total, the AG's office funds for the city for this would be around $78,000. So we're just requesting the ability for the mayor to sign the forms and agree to that settlement with the Attorney General's office.
Questions for Jason?
Do those funds just go into, is that just general fund dollars, or does it go into a specific?
No, we have
use
to
or-
track it separately. The state, as part of the settlement, there's a multiple page list of different things that can be used for education purposes, Narcan for police and fire, and other type supplies that would be in the public safety realm specific to that.
Other questions?
So have you be putting pencil to plans on what you would do specifically with the money?
I've worked with the chiefs to try to develop supplies, and they've been talking about different things that they want to try to start supplying out in the field. They're starting to see an uptick in some of those type things. And so they're sorting through that. And then on the first settlements that y'all approved, we were contacted in the last couple of weeks for the information for them to start depositing money from those first settlements. So we'll get a finalized plan pretty quickly so they can start expending those funds as we get them.
And again, this is 78,000, is that correct?
Off of
Approximately.
this one. I forget what the number was off the previous ones, but it was that or greater. It's different amounts as they reach them with the different companies, and they do it on a statewide basis and then break them down by cities and counties and.
Okay.
Anybody else? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the opioid settlement with the State of Texas Office of the Attorney General.
Second.
Have a motion is second. Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same motion, against? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item is Mr. Killen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. Have 2 cases. One was actually retracted. That was the one for 911 East Lewis. Mr. Woolley on March 30th asked that he, or actually submitted an email to retract that case, so, in his application. So he is no longer desiring to change that to R2.5. It's going to remain R2. And he is actually moving forward with the construction of a duplex on that property, which is a permitted use. Next case would be PD 2022-009. Applicant Joel Allen, representing Pecan Landing LLC, is requesting a rezone of property at 0 Forest, parcel 77510. This is 36 acres at the Motley William Abstract. in Stephenville, Texas. He is requesting a rezone from R1 and R2, this is a dual zone property, to a planned development. Mr. Allen presented his conceptual plan on September 20th, 2022, and on March 15th, 2023, he presented his plan development and the request for the rezone to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission voted 4-1 to recommend the city council approve the development plan and the rezoning request. To give a little background on the property, again, this is the roughly 36 acres. It does have split zoning. Current zoning is R1 and future land use is R1 and R2, with future land use being R1. There is water and sewer available at the property. We have been working with Mr. Allen for quite some time, since September, and when we looked at his conceptual plan, even earlier than that. So we've gone through several renderings with Mr. Allen, and just wanted to make some comments related to his PD request. They're on the staff report. This is a 164 lot development. He has 14 lots designated for the HOA common areas. And again, it has a split zoning of R1 and R2, so single family and 1 and 2 family zoning. He is proposing 6 lots that exceed the current zoning of R1 lot dimensions and the R2 lot dimensions. So 6 of those lots are estate-sized lots, and they're in the dark blue on the site plan. They're on the far west of the property, far western edge of the property. He has 111 lots that are that do not meet the R1 dimensions, and those are the lighter shaded blue properties. Now, these lots range anywhere 50 foot wide. The depths meet the R1 dimensions. The setbacks do not meet the R1 dimensions. But if you look at other zonings across the city, these lots would meet certain zoning districts for R1 development, just not for R1 specifically. So smaller lot dimensions in the R1 zoning would allow. But again, he does have some R2 zoning on the far eastern edge of the property. 33 townhome lots are the lots shaded in pink. They are 25 by 100 with lot dimensions 25 by 100, and then the setbacks are vary as well from the R2 dimensions. So this would be another concession that we're looking for, just to allow those dimensions to be smaller than existing requirements. Lots 2 and 3 will have Block B, and lots 24 through 27 in Block E will have frontage on 2 streets. So they will have dual frontage access on two streets, which is a concession from a subdivision requirement that only the block can only have one frontage. The developer is proposing a 0.5 acre, half acre lot. That is on Honeybee Circle. It's shaded in green. That's the 1/2 acre lot that he is proposing for a city park. And he has expressed that he will equip that park as the Parks and Recreation Director would request. And my goodness, I apologize for that spam risk.
It is your wife answered.
I apologize. So he has proposed a 0.5 acre lot in lieu of the parkland dedication fees. And then he has provided a screening rendering in your packet as well. He will screen the property along Forest, and he does have a rendering of that. It's a masonry wall. And then for the remaining perimeter of the property, he wants to address that through deed restrictions for how that would be screened from the adjacent properties on the perimeter. 2 letters of opposition were received and distributed to the commission for the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and 5 citizens addressed the commission in public at the public hearing. And tonight we have Mr. Allen, Mr. and Mrs. Joel Allen here, as well as their engineer Reese Flanagan, And then I believe we have several members of the public that are here for the public hearing. So with that, Mayor, Council, will be glad to answer any questions related to.
Questions for Steve?
Steve, where does that second ingress, egress roadway go?
For the lots that have dual frontage? So it would be, let's see if I can get to the site plan here. Those lots will simply have frontage on two of the interior streets on the development. So not onto Forest necessarily, but within the development. And I believe they're on the far southern portion of that site plan. And I'll get that in front of me and try to be more specific. I believe that's on Moolah Lane. And at Honeybee Circle. You'll see that they have Block E on Honeybee Circle, right below the 0.5 acre tract that's being, or lot that's being dedicated for parkland. It would have frontage on both Honeybee and Moolah Circle.
Anybody else?
So the Lone Star Lane, is that going all the way out onto the loop, or is that just ending?
That ends, terminates there.
So
Then
there's
a
no
dis-
exit out
addition-
onto the loop?
No, ma'am, there's additional acreage between the termination of Lone Star and then to the loop.
Anybody else?
Is Lone Star projected to connect with future development?
Not
on the
required,
south side?
but
Not
he
required,
did,
but
he
projected
did
to.
construct it to where it could construct, or could connect to a future development, if that were to occur.
Okay.
Of course, the adjacent development would have to have a site plan that would match up with
With
Lone
this.
Star Lane.
Anybody else? Thanks, Steve. Joe, oh, you had one more?
One more question.
Okay.
With the 36 plus acres here, it's zoned presently for R1 and R2, correct?
Yes, sir.
Normally, how many homes or houses could you put on that with our current requirements?
So with R1, it requires a minimum of a 7,500 square foot lot dimension.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a density of 6, not accounting for setbacks, road construction. So 6 would be the maximum that you get in, that could get onto 1 acre. But then again, you have to take into account setback requirements,
Certainly.
a minimum of 50-foot wide right-of-way for local streets. So all of that would come off of that
By-
density of 6.
By changing the zoning to a planned development like this, basically provides a lot more control on the front end of how it's going to look
Yes,
and the
sir.
size of the lots, and because everything has to be planned ahead of time.
That is correct. In a planned development, the developer can ask for concessions, which we listed, and he has a narrative also that basically lists the same concessions that I've paraphrased in the staff report. But that's a great question, and one that's often asked by people within the community is, does a planned development, if it is approved, does it allow any latitude for that to be changed? And that does not. It would have to, the planned development would actually have to be repealed before any changes could happen, or amended. It could be amended through the process of the subdivision ordinance. So what we see on the screen is going to be very close to, the preliminary plat may change a little bit, but it's overall going to look like what that site plan is showing us today.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Thanks, sir. Mr. Allen, you want to come up and make a presentation?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of the community. Stephenville has a housing shortage. There are currently only 25 homes available and no new construction under $479,000. We are trying to solve this problem. I recently took a tour of the Jimmy Choo Central Fire Station. I asked one of the young firemen where he lived. He told me that he commutes in from Millsap for his shifts. Why does one of our best first responders drive 45 minutes each way down Highway 281 to serve our community? But this story is not unique. There are countless individuals and families in our city who are struggling to find housing. We need to take action now to address this crisis. Tonight, I urge you to vote yes in support of the Plan Development 2209. When we presented the concept plan back in September of last year, we took feedback from the Planning and Zoning Committee, and we met with the neighbors to get their concerns, their ideas, their feedback. And we put together a plan development that allows more citizens a chance at owning a home. The base zoning calls for 6 lots per acre, which would be 220 lots. So if we did nothing today, the parcel in the north would have approximately 169 homes, and the parcel on the south would have approximately 51 duplexes. We are proposing 111 single-family homes and 33 individually platted townhomes designed for low-maintenance living, similar to what you have approved before. Our plan is much less dense than even the base zoning as it stands today. Our vision is a quality neighborhood of beautiful homes that is walkable and conveniently located near retail and restaurants so that people can enjoy where they live and achieve the dream of home ownership. We have 6 half-acre lots, 29 oversized lots that are over 7,500 square foot that R1 calls for, 13 open space lots totaling over 4 acres, a children's playground with extra parking on 3 sides, a dog park, and sidewalks on both sides of the street throughout the neighborhood. I could see young families raising their kids here. I could see executives building a custom home. I could see Tarleton professors or professionals owning a townhome that is lock and leave between semesters or while they are traveling. I could see seniors glad to finally find a low-maintenance home. I could see teachers, coaches, and first responders enjoying the convenience of being close to work. I could see us. Our goal is to create something that we are proud of. I recently went to the city park on a Saturday morning with my kids, and I was amazed at the amount of young families that were there for the Little League baseball games. People want to be in Stephenville. The problem is most of the housing and new construction that is happening out in the county. This growth is placing extra stress on our infrastructure inside the city. We need to get out in front of this problem. From an economic development perspective, bringing in housing will boost our local economy. More available homes allows our businesses to hire and attracts new retail and restaurants to our city. If we don't provide the houses, we will begin to lose businesses that will no longer see Stephenville as a viable market for new opportunities. We must keep the recent momentum that we have built largely because of your leadership. We need to get this done. If we want to solve the housing shortage in Stephenville, we need help from the city. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I ask that you approve the plan development and vote for housing that is accessible to its citizens. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Allen? You want your engineer to present or not?
If there are specific questions about
Okay. Any
engineer
questions?
requirements, I'm happy to have him answer those.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Now we're going to enter into a public hearing on case number PD 2022-009. Is that correct? Okay. I have one person who has signed up to come talk to us, Thomas Haley. If you'll come up and give your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thomas Haley, I live at 120 Greenbrier. And first, I want to publicly say thank you to the developers. They have spent some extra time with us to explain their vision and what they're trying to achieve here. And that's helped us answer some of the questions and concerns we have. But I still have three kind of main topics I would like to talk to you about. One is traffic on Forest Lane. I'm not sure if that's a developer issue or if that's a city issue or maybe both. But as I understand, there's not a whole lot of right-of-way to build out Forest Lane, so there's gonna have to do those in pieces. That's gonna cause some major traffic areas over there. There's another option, maybe go to Fry Extension, but my understanding is that there might not be funding for that at this point. So I would like for you guys to consider as you decide on this, whether you vote on it or not, or pass it today or not, that we at least try to come up with a solution for the traffic on Forest Lane. And I would prefer if you move it over to the Fry Extension. I think that'd be better long-term for the city, as well as for the developer. So I think that would be better for them. The second thing is flooding. I've been assured by lots of people that flooding is not gonna be a major concern for me. Well, unfortunately, my house is a little lower than everybody else's house on that street, so it might be just a personal challenge for me. But I know once you start moving dirt and those types of things, and since we don't have a real good storm sewage plan, and we do some other different things, I'm a little concerned about that. I understand there might be studies and those things that are gonna happen later. Hopefully those things will be made public and we can have a chance to review those things to make sure that that's an option. And the last thing I'll share with you, I'm not sure that myself and maybe some of the other colleagues that are with me are ever gonna agree with the developer on the number of houses there. You know, obviously we have made an argument with the developer that we'd like to see less density there. Do appreciate that he's not going in and building the total number of homes there, but thinking that less density is gonna be better for that community over there, it's gonna be a better fit for what we have. If we decide to go in and vote on it, and I say we, because we're all part of this, right? We're all part of the city and we all live here and pay taxes and work together. If we decide to pass it and it goes forward, and we start to develop the other side of the street, it's gonna considerably change the way that side of the city works. How that city looks. That may be good or that might be bad. I'm not sure at this point, to be honest with you. My gut tells me it's not gonna get you the desired results that you're looking for, but maybe it will. So I'd like for you guys to consider those three things. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Thomas, appreciate it. Does anyone else want to speak? If so, I need you to fill out a form. Seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing and consider case number PD 2022.009. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the rezone 2023-0-08 and the planned, for this planned development.
Is it 009?
I've got 8 on mine.
8, okay. Got the wrong one. Do I hear a second? Justin, did you say second?
I did.
Okay.
I do have a question though, Mayor.
Okay, ask away.
So with regard to the facade along Forest Lane, at what point do we get the details of that?
As far as the screening,
Yeah.
Yes.
there's a rendering in the packet.
So
and
the
that's what
renderings
he's-
in, that, I wasn't sure, I may have misunderstood you.
I'm
You were
sorry,
saying there was
the rendering in the packet of the screening wall actually
Okay.
has a sign on it, I think it says
Okay.
Trail Ridge perhaps, but it's the actual screening wall that he's proposing. It's
Okay.
to be a masonry wall running along Forest.
Okay.
And again, on the perimeter, trail side, that's the signage, and then the screening wall on the bottom right-hand
Okay.
corner there.
And that's the monuments going on the lots there, Joel? Okay.
Entry feature, yes, sir, into the development. So, that wall will be something similar to that wall will run along Forest, and then on the perimeter, the other three sides of the development will be screening, which is controlled through deed restrictions that he sets with the purchasers of the property.
The landscape maintenance outside the wall, so between the screening and Forest Lane, will that be responsibility of the HOA, or is that gonna be city? Will that be city property?
His responsibility, or the HOA's responsibility up to the right-of-way.
To the right-of-way.
Yes, sir.
Does this also include the required setback that we need to widen Forest Lane on this
Yes.
side? Okay.
No, he's giving up the
He's
additional
giving
right
that,
of way.
okay. All right, perfect.
And he's responsible for doing Forest Lane.
You might, Jason, could you elaborate on that just a little bit more? It was a little quiet down here.
Sure. As part of the plan development and the construction, the developer's responsible for giving the city the additional right-of-way required, which I believe in this case is 10 feet, and then is also responsible for putting the infrastructure in, putting the additional 10 feet of roadway along Forest Lane.
The entire length of their property.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So Steve, could you just touch, Mr. Haley brought up this issue of flooding onto his property. That's the first I've heard someone mention that. Could you address that briefly?
Yes, sir. So this will go through the same development process that all of our projects in the city go through. We will have a civil plan set. We're working with Mr. Flanagan and Mr. Allen on that development. We will ensure that that property does not contribute to any flooding. I think the way we summarize this, and probably in layman's terms, is that the diversion of the water from that property cannot leave at a higher rate or volume or velocity than what it's already doing. So there will be mechanisms, detention ponds, other features as required through our civil engineering that will make sure that that property does not contribute to any flooding issues to the surrounding properties or downstream properties.
Anybody else?
And one of the questions you brought up was in regard to Fry Street, Jason. And so on Fry, do we have the right of way currently for Fry Street?
No, sir.
Okay.
Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll have a motion and a second, so we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is consider approval of ordinance rezoning property at, wait a minute, where's 300? Yeah, that's what it is too. That's your, all you have tonight, right?
Yes, sir, other than the Development Services Committee report.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Mr. Cook, Development Services Committee report.
Thank you, Mayor. Development Services Committee met on March the 21st. We had two items to consider. One was to discuss an ordinance extending hours for the sale and offer or to sell mixed alcoholic beverages by a holder of mixed beverages for a late night permit. The committee discussed this and at length and decided to take no action on the request. And so no formal action was taken, therefore no recommendation to the council from the committee on this particular item. The second item is one that you mentioned Fry Street earlier. It's certainly Fry Street will come into play in the next year and a half or year and 13 months, 14 months when the comprehensive plan is done and we're looking at land use planning and thoroughfare planning. This is a process that has taken a good long time to come to this point, but we're ready to recommend an agreement with a company, Lionheart, to begin the process of a comprehensive city plan for Stephenville that will include land use plan and will also include a thoroughfare plan. It's taken a holistic approach, if you would, to the community with the growth that we're seeing and all in the future here, and what we're expecting. To give you an idea, the money, this council committed funding for this comprehensive plan last year. A request for proposals was submitted and asked that they have a due date of February the 15th. We had 5 different companies from throughout this state that sent back their proposals. We had a screening group put together that went through those proposals and selected from the 5, they eliminated 3. And then those 3 were all interviewed, and they were interviewed by committee. And from those 3, there were 2 recommendations that came out. These were presented to the council, and the council approved this, and that was to do negotiations with 2 different firms, Verdunity and Lionheart. And with the recommendation that if we couldn't work on a dual purpose, that we would go with Lionheart and see if and work out the best deal possible. And I'm pleased to say that Lionheart was the one that came out of this as recommended by the council. They added a physical analysis component to it that we had thought we would get from Verdunity, and so that worked to our advantage. The total cost with this particular contract is $310,000. It will last over the next 13 to 15 months. And we're here to recommend that council approve this contract. We have Steve who can comment about this. I am also pleased to introduce Rebecca Leonard. Rebecca is the founder and the CEO of Lionheart. They have a long track record of producing comprehensive plans for different communities, and every one of them is different. One of the things we tried to do with this, and our entire committee did, that was to try to not have a boilerplate look. We wanted something that was specific to Stephenville and how Stephenville is growing and how it's going to look in the future. And I think with this consulting group, we have achieved that. And that was one of the primary goals that we had, and I know it was for the staff too. So anyway, Steve, is there any comments that you'd like to make? We'll ask Rebecca.
No, sir, I think you did a great job covering the details behind it. I do want to thank the committee. It was, of course, you and Councilman McClinton and Mr. Nick Williams that worked through those RFQs or the proposals and kind of kept me marching forward. It did take us a long time to get to this point, but once we got the RFQ drafted and out, we moved pretty quickly to get here by tonight. So Ms. Rebecca Leonard did drive in tonight in case we had any questions, so I would encourage you to please make her drive worthwhile if you do have any questions. But again, we appreciate the support on the funding for this project. It's something I think will be a great benefit to the city as we look at our future and the growth that we're experiencing. Thank you.
Questions for Gerald? Okay.
Any question? Yes, sir, Mayor. Obviously, I would like to move that we approve the contract that's within our packets with Lionheart for a fee of $310,000. It's divided into deliverables over the next period of months. There will be some significant interaction with people in this community. I've had some people already contact me that would like to serve on different committees that are going to be looking at this, whether it's thoroughfare plan or whether it's land use or whether it's the overall planning group. They'll ask that one person from this council be put on to be the liaison here, to work with them and the committee and to report back at every council meeting. So with that, Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve the contract.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Other discussion, questions?
Is the comprehensive plan was through 2030, the last one that was done, is that correct?
The last time it was done was in 2008.
Okay.
And so, hopefully, this one will get us through the next 5 to 10 years.
Other questions? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed, motion passes.
And Rebecca, we'd like to, you stand up, Rebecca Leonard, and,
You want to come speak to us? Sure. What's your name and address? Give you a few minutes to kind of introduce yourself.
Rebecca Leonard, 4001 Camacho Street, Austin, Texas.
Ooh, Austin.
Yes.
Keep Austin weird.
Thank you so much. Try not to bring any of that weirdness here.
There you
for
go.
sure.
Good.
I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled to be working with you all. This is leading conversations in communities like Stephenville is one of my favorite things to do. I'm also honored. I know what a tough job it is to be in your seat and to have to make big decisions for your city. And so I'm honored you've trusted us with that, helping you with that. So anyway, just glad to be here and look forward to getting started.
thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Anything else, Mr. Cook?
No, sir, that concludes the report.
Ms. Durfee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. McKay, do you want to come up? Our staff presented the Hot Funds application from City Limits Sport Academy baseball tournaments to the committee. The tournaments will be held both at the City Limits Sports Facility, Academy facilities, and the City of Stephenville baseball fields. The application was submitted. There are 5 tournaments. He requested $3,800 per tournament, so a total of $19,000. The motion was made and carried unanimously, and we came up with, I don't know if he gave us numbers on, oh, I'm sorry, it's right there, 380 teams participating this summer. So, if anybody has any questions, Michaela and I.
Questions for Leanne?
You all talked about his use of how to promote this, or the city of Stephenville and hotels here in town, restaurants.
Yes, he said, okay. For how the funds would be used in the application, he said welcoming packages containing gift cards from local restaurants and retail stores, prizes and awards, advertising at fields about locations of restaurants and locations of retail stores, and then gatekeepers of direct traffic admission and to answer questions. He also said there would be social media advertisement as well for the city of Stephenville. And then he is also going to be handing out a survey for those participating for hotels and the tournament in itself. And also, I have a post-event report that goes into detail that we can give the organizer as well, that has them provide details about media and advertising information, participant and visitor information, event financials, and surveys, and that they can give to us.
Is that required that be returned to us?
No, but it's just.
Upon the funding? Can we require it?
Mhm.
It's a good move to do it, too.
Is there a room block?
They do not have a room block set, but on the application, it does state that most teams would stay at hotels rather than the RV park that he has there.
And they're requesting the funds, you said per event, but we wouldn't release them until just before the next event, or just or would it be after the event? We're not gonna release all 5 events.
No, sir.
No.
We'll work out the timing with VW staff, but yeah, it'd be in the couple, 3 weeks up ahead, or whatever he needed for appropriate advertising.
Okay.
Other questions?
So did we miss one?
We did.
Oh. So Is he still asking for the same amount, or just, so we just missed that?
Yes, I think he would want reimbursement for the expenses, and I think for that one, what you may do is require the post-event documentation.
For, well, plus all of them? Yeah.
You want it on all of them, but I think on that one, we get that before we,
Go on to the next one.
right, and reimburse that first one.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yep, we're pushing up against the next one.
Anybody else? Do you hear a motion, Leanne?
Shall I take it back in, or is
Well,
somebody else
that's
got
your
it?
committee, it's up to you.
I would move that we would accept the, sorry. I thought I was going through everything and then going back to that, sorry. That we would accept the hot funds, request from City Limits for the baseball tournaments
In the amount of 19,000?
in the amount of 19,000 for 5 events at 3,800 an event.
With the post-survey included?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion, is second. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is Murphy.
And then, sorry, then we had a hot funds application for the Joe Beaver Superstars event that's actually happening this weekend. They had originally requested a lot more than we agreed to, but our committee agreed to $5,000, and it was, with one person against, and the other all voted to give them the $5,000. And that event's happening this weekend.
Questions for Leanne?
Are we already on all the advertising that he promised, or?
In this particular case, they asked for the funds to be used for the awards and prizes, for the roping event.
By the time, he actually applied back in the summer, and we declined to be a part of it, and it was brought back to us, and we negotiated on the price, on our, not the price, but on our donation. And by that point, all of his promotionals were already out of that.
Do you recall why we declined it in the summer? Just the amount, it was.
The amount.
Yeah, in my conversations with Michaela, the amount of the request, the venue, didn't think it was a good investment, but they requested it to be brought to the committee and the council.
Well, Jason, you had mentioned before how you came to that $5,000 amount. You remember?
Yes, in talking with Ms. Williams about the amount of people we think will actually stay in hotel rooms that will come to the events, the family members of the contestants, and those kind of folks. If you start adding up the number of hotel rooms over the weekend with an average cost of around $150, and then the hotel motel tax that could be seen from that revenue over a 2-day event over the weekend, it falls back into around that $5,000 range.
And his actually is a 3-day event. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, and because my initial concern was the fact that there were so many RV hookups on premises, but there's actually not even a fraction, there's not enough for a fraction of the people to stay there on premise.
And I will make a note that La Quinta, Best Western, and Hampton are all fully booked this weekend. Can't say that it's specifically for this event, but it is Easter. People go home for Easter. You can kind of assume most of those people are potentially for this event as well.
Other questions?
When was the last time this event was here?
I think this is the first time for this
It was in
event.
Stephenville in 2014.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
He did
yes.
one at Lone Star.
Okay, that's
Um,
where it was at.
I mean, if you ever hear an interview with Joe, or if you ever hear anything, I mean, he loves Stephenville, he wants to have more events here. So we did discuss with Sheila the fact that this time next year, we'll have our own rodeo arena, that we can have it there, so.
Perfect.
That,
Which, by the way, is going vertical next week, I hear.
yes, it is.
Do I hear,
So,
do I hear a
anyways,
motion?
So I would make the motion that we grant the hot funds application to the Joe Beavers Junior Superstar Roping in the amount of $5,000.
Have a motion, I hear a second. Have a motion, second, further discussion?
We'll get the survey back.
Yes, they are also going to do a survey for their own event, and then I'll send them the post-event survey as well.
Other questions?
I'll just say I've got a concern being so close to it. I think our hot funds generally should be used to attract events and, you know, and it doesn't hurt when you're a local guy bringing a lot of money in here too. That's always attractive, but,
He's actually, oh, I'm sorry, he's actually not.
I'm talking about our last one that we approved.
Oh.
But, so.
Anybody else?
I'm the one that originally opposed it, and everything. And for the, similar to what Ricky was saying then, and that was, I felt like we get a lot of requests, and if you recall, the last few years, we've had a lot of requests, particularly from rodeos and ropings and the like, for significant amounts of dollars going into them, particularly from the different promoters. My kudos to Jason and the staff for reducing, getting it down to more workable amount from the original request that was in there, and I think that was a lot of the reason why last year it certainly was not approved. But back to the same thing, having a tracking mechanism is the important thing. You've got to be able to show heads and beds, because you're gonna have to do a report back to the state at some point of whether or not we're putting those heads and beds. And if this will do that, well, then that will be great. And if we get the return off the dollars, you know, and I mean, off the people that are coming here, and we get a return in dollars to where it's basically a wash, well, that's really great. But would there be a way to use these dollars for advertising and bringing more people in rather than granting it to someone to put on the roping?
Else?
Anyway, that's the reason I voted no.
Anyone else? Have a motion, second, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion, nay.
Okay, I heard two, is that right? Okay, motion passes. Is that everything, Ms. Durfee?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Tonight, Mr. Baskett is going to substitute for Lana Reisman for the nominations committee.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. On March 21st, 2023, the nominations committee met. All members were present and unanimously voted to bring the Charter Review Committee with a positive recommendation to council. The Charter Review Committee consists of Lon Reisman, Leanne Durfee, David Baskett, Bob Newby, Scott Allen, Red Harrison, Meta Collier, and Rick Gann. Any questions?
I've got a question, or a comment, I guess. So the charter being the ruling document for the city, there's one suggestion or one nomination on here, Rick Gann, who is very likely very capable of handling this, but no longer lives in the city, I don't believe. I believe he lives in the county. And so I would feel like if we're going to have input on the governing document for the city, that should all be city residents.
You want to address that, Jason?
There is no legal requirement in the law at all, so that's entirely to the discretion of the council.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion that we accept the Charter Review Committee as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Anything else, David?
No, sir, that concludes the Nominations Committee.
Mr. Haskey?
Finance Committee met on March 21st. Staff presented the ClearGov software subscription proposal for 5.5 years with a cost in this fiscal year of $8,700, which is about, what was that, 7,000 under budget? Is that right? What you have left in the budget? No, 4,000 under budget. With a total cost over the life of the contract of $101,080. Motion was made by Mr. McClinton, seconded by Mr. Baskett, and it went with a positive recommendation unanimously to council. And then council reconvened in a special council meeting that same night and approved the proposal. That concludes the Finance Committee.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Harris, financial report.
Mayor, Council, this is the monthly budget report for the period ending February 28, 2023. We are moving along very well. For the month of February, we received $306,000 in our property taxes. It's a $425,000 increase over funds received last year, and it's 94% of our budget. That's only about $135,000 less than what we had anticipated, so we are starting to see a little bit of that catch up, and I think as we move along, we'll see it coming closer to our anticipated revenues. We received $889,000 in sales tax in February, which is $602,000 or 17% more than our funds collected last fiscal year to date. We are at 46% of our budget, and that's $352,000 higher than what we anticipated. Most of our revenue received to date is in the general fund at 60%, water and wastewater fund at 25%, and landfill at 8%. We received 75% of the total budgeted revenue, which is over $2.4 million more than anticipated, and that's due to taxes, charges for services, investment income, and debt proceeds. We received $1.4 million more in revenue than last year, and that's due to taxes and charges for services. For the expenditures, water and wastewater were at 43%, general fund at 36%, and landfill at 8%. We've expended 24% of our total budgeted expenditures, and that's more than $16 million less than anticipated. That's due to personnel, contractual, and capital projects, which as those capital projects move forward, we'll see that catch up. We spent almost $8.5 million more in expenditures than last year. The bulk of that is due to personnel, capital outlay, and debt service, which with the capital outlay we anticipated, and the same with debt service. CEDA has received an overall 49% of their budgeted revenue through February, and that's $25,000 more than last year and $58,000 more than anticipated. They have spent 19% of their budgeted expenditure, which is $145,000 more than last year, and that's due to grant disbursements, but it's $428,000 less than we anticipated, and that's due to capital outlay and grant disbursements.
Questions for Monica? Got that look on your face between the two of y'all. I'm gonna add Jason a comment here. You talked about transfers between funds. Do you want to reference the two bills that are discussed in Austin right now about that?
Yes, sir. There's a very specific Senate bill that, if passed as written, would prevent transfer of funds from our enterprise funds, water, wastewater, landfill, back to the general fund And every city operates where they do that. You run those funds like a business, and just like you would a business, our general fund, the taxpayer-supported side of the city, charges our enterprise funds for managing their affairs. So the bookkeeping and administration of them, and then personnel costs related to those. And I think our transfers are around 2 million or so, somewhere in that neighborhood annually. And so just for a city like Stephenville, if that was to become law and you could no longer transfer at all, then that would be a $2 million hit to the general fund, but it wouldn't result in a loss of need for that $2 million, but it would send cities like Stephenville and others all across the state scrambling to figure out what you would do. And so, yes, that is a very bad bill.
Do you know what the Senate bill number is?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but
Would you pass it out to the council?
Yes, sir, I
And
will.
encourage everybody to contact their legislator about that after you've read the bill.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. Next item. Jeff. The hat's kind of starting to grow on me.
I've got several of them. It's
I know
about
you
straw
do.
season though.
I know.
90 degrees out, but it's just, officially it's kind of like the white shoes that I know you like to wear.
I understand.
Hey, first of all, thank you guys for all you do, and thank you also. I think the movement on the housing issue was a big one. Just today, I had a discussion with a potential retailer, big box retailer that was interested, as always, in more housing. And just to clarify some things that have been said in the past, we do have a need for home ownership and for housing. We do not have a need, well, actually, let me rephrase that. Retailers and commercial operators are not excited about apartments, unless it's student housing, of course, but apartments are typically not on their radar as far as helping to attract them. Now, housing is, and so this was a big move today. And also today, we always got to have a little factoid here. 1973, on this day in history, World Trade Center was it opened. The World Trade Center was at that time the world's largest, or tallest building, I should say, with 110 stories. Of course, we know 28 years later, and it only lasted 28 years, which was kind of interesting. But that happened on this day. And this day in 1974, Hank Aaron tied Babe Ruth's home run record with 714. And on this day in 1975, Microsoft was founded. A couple of things that I wanted to update you on, some facts and figures and things that are showing some of the growth of Stephenville outside of what Monica just said in terms of our sales and other growth in sales taxes and so forth. Our trade area, we've talked before about it growing in the last 4 years from about 84,000 to over 120,000. But more importantly, our square miles of representation has grown. It was in just 2021, so 2 years ago, it was about 159 square miles for our trade area. It's now over 200 miles that people are choosing to use this as their hub for commercial and retail restaurants and so forth. Only a slight bit of it actually does cross over with the Fort Worth trade area. But interestingly enough, the more that we recruit in our community, the more that people are choosing to come this way instead of that way. So that's very helpful for us. Average household income in that trade area has increased to $80,000, which is again, when we start recruiting for other things, the higher that number goes, the more we get put on the books as a possibility for bigger names, national brands, and so forth. So that's a good sign. And that has also grown about 20,000 over the last 4 or 5 years, which is incredible from a household perspective. From a retail recruitment side, one of the cool things that we have going, and Mr. Mayor, you'll be joining us at ICSC in Las Vegas. This is a deal that, I remember the days when we used to kind of feel really guilty about going to these trade shows because they were in other towns and it was expending some money and so forth. And what that has led to, as we all know, are some of our biggest projects in the history of Stephenville, especially on the retail commercial side. We anticipate continuing to build the bench on that end as well. This ICSC event already has over 15,000 attendees registered, so it's going to be a large one. I anticipate it being a little over 20,000 by the time we arrive on the third week of May to continue to recruit for some of our businesses or some of our growth here. A couple of interesting things. We have also had added to our deal 3 new projects. I mentioned them briefly in my board meeting for those that were at my board meeting. not big enough to really go into here, but the interesting part about them is not who they are, but what they represent. Our 3 new projects are, one is a major manufacturer, one is a local manufacturer doing some continued expansion, and another one is a new retail distribution center. So the 3 completely different areas. It's not just all in one specific area, which we've been concentrating on. As y'all know, we've done a lot of retail here lately. We have a couple of other things that with all of this retail and everything else, and even on the industry side, that brings up more issues with potential workforce issues. So we continue to go down that road. We had 4 executives from Texas Workforce Solutions in our office last week and really talked up a lot of different projects. We're going to try and implement some innovative new programs that are going to utilize Stephenville as sort of the model. Don't know exactly what those look like yet, but we are doing some connections between the university, the community college, of course, the ISD, and so forth. There will be some opportunities for some grants as well. I know the ISD is going into some welding, potential expansion of their welding program, which will help. And then we also have a webinar that we'll be attending tomorrow, actually, and it's going to deal with upskilling and reskilling some of our existing workers. They will, through that, go through some other programs that they are going to launch in the very near future. Wanted to mention, recently, this was kind of cool. I got the opportunity to represent not only Stephenville, but the state of Texas in a presentation on for towns 50,000 and less. I was the lone representative for those to talk about economic development programs and what has happened during COVID, before COVID, after COVID, to talk about the growth. They recognize Stephenville as a growing community, obviously, like we all know, but it's starting to get out across the entire state. So I got to talk about the programs and the kinds of relationship, not only that we have with the city and the kinds of things that we've been able to do with the city, but also the things that we've been able to do as an organization in structuring programs to help those existing businesses as well as those that might be coming our way down the road. Wanted to also talk about a couple of things. As a father of a senior, and I don't look that old, I realize what you're thinking. As a father of a senior, you start to realize some other things besides just the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new chapter and new things, whether it's being workforce ready, and so forth. I know in North Carolina, we started a workforce ready program in our community that is now a model that's used. In fact, Texas copied it in some ways. But what you really start to see is what's, in 2 or 3, 4 years, some of these seniors now are going to be peers in many ways because they're going to be in the workforce, depending on whether or not they go straight into the workforce, their community college pathway, or their university pathway. There's a big disconnect, however, in what the TEA does in Austin and what we need from a skill-ready positioning from our students going into the workforce. And so, to their credit, the TEA is going to have a tri-agency workforce initiative where they're going to have and invite people from the workforce, primarily from our manufacturers and so forth, to actually sit in on advisory councils so that they can start to create curriculum that makes a lot of sense for those that are needing to be more work ready. Instead of just the reading, writing, arithmetic, so to speak, it's also going to include some true work ready preparedness opportunities for our students. We're very excited about that. I think that we're going to try and push someone from our local community to serve on that, and that will help give us a voice locally in Austin whenever we start talking about curriculum, things that, our school gets handcuffed sometimes by what TEA demands of them. And so if we could start to add some of these other programs and curricula, lots of curriculums, that would be really cool. Lastly, we are following, y'all mentioned a couple of bills that impact the city. We're following 129 bills that are related to economic development right now. The good fortune is none of them are particularly hurtful to us at this level. At this time, there will be some reworking and some sunsetting of some existing grants that the state has for economic development. There'll be some different titles and some different funding mechanisms, but at the end of the day, we should not lose some opportunities to access funds from the state. As y'all know, we've used them quite a bit here lately, whether it was Schreiber or some other places, and we think that we can use them for future development as well, especially as we kind of morph a little bit more onto the industrial side. I do think that that's going to help us. Again, you never know what's going to happen last minute, but I think that we will not lose any of the funding mechanisms. They'll just change into some other, they'll have a different look, which is cool. I did want to mention that April 17th, there will be, it's kind of a, it's a public, but it's not really a public thing. There's an industry social that's being held to kind of assess many of the current needs of industry. We've done it several times before, but in different ways. This one, we're kind of combining Stedco is sort of helping to lead this opportunity with the Tarleton State. We do have Dublin and us and various other people that will be involved. Mr. King will be one of our roundtable leaders as well on housing and infrastructure. Obviously, all these different things, what we're trying to do is get today, 2023, what are your 2 or 3 biggest needs? Is it housing? Is it workforce? Is it, what are those things? We can all assume all we want, but to actually hear from them those things and put them in and then get some kind of actionable plan will be really super good. So anyway, those are the updates for now. Any
Questions for Jeff?
Thank you,
I'll
guys.
just make a couple comments. One, Hank Aaron, when he came to the major leagues, was right-handed, but he batted cross-handed. His first home run in the major leagues is cross-handed. I also want to say that, I've gone to 4 events now. This will be the 5th with y'all where we're advertising Stephenville. And I can tell you, it's amazing whether it's a 1.5 million square foot building like Las Vegas or a 500,000 square feet like it was in Dallas and Fort Worth. Everybody knows Ashley. No, everybody knows about Steve and about Stephenville. Y'all do a good job of advertising for us. Appreciate it. Thank you. Next time is consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, move we approve consent as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Consent agenda is passed. Comments by city manager?
Yes, April's a busy month. This Friday, city offices will be closed in observance of the Easter holiday. Reminder to council, and it'll be posted later this week, special joint meeting for executive session with Commissioners Court next Tuesday. Committee meetings on the 18th of the month. Larry Joe Taylor Music Fest will be the last week of the month. And if you haven't kind of looked in downtown and see the changes, right now they're scheduled to do their filming the first week of May. And then for several issues prominent with the city right now, members will probably travel to Austin, some members for Tex 21 later this month, and then some will go to the aviation conference later this month as some of those issues rise to the top. Thank you.
Mr.
I don't have a lot. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that Thursday is the last day to register to vote.
Thank you,
In
ma'am.
election.
Justin?
Thursday's the last day to register. Early voting starts April 24th. Thanks, Dan.
Bob?
Great minds.
That's right.
I would just like to take time to wish everybody, have a happy Easter weekend and take care of yourselves.
Ricky?
So congratulations to a good, an incredible season to the Stephenville High School Yellow Jackets soccer team, who ended their season this week in the regional quarterfinals. Was that right? Yeah. And cheer on the Bees soccer, who will play in the regional tournament starting Friday. And if all goes well there, hopefully they'll be in Georgetown middle of next week in the state tournament. So.
David?
This morning I was reminded, I get reminded all the time how great Stephenville is. Leaving my house this morning, the trash collector was coming by to pick up the trash, and he noticed that one of my neighbors had his hood up on his car and was trying to get his car started, and he got out of his trash truck and got out and helped him. I mean, I am about as handy as a foot, so I just kept going. But it was awesome to see that. And then on a personal note, my daughter and several of her friends lost a classmate last week, and I think the community has come together amazingly, and we need to keep the McKinney family in our prayers.
Gerald?
Oh, I wholly agree with David with regard to the way the community kind of came together and with regard to the McKinney family. It was a terrible tragedy. But it also makes me think, too, very much like y'all are talking about, and this community and how good this community is, and the people that are in it, of course, is what makes the community. There are so many things. I was in a meeting here the last couple of days, and someone was talking about the fact that they think that, the last 4 years have been fantastic for the community as far as growth. I think the last 3 years particularly have been just outstanding. And we know, based on what is going to come now, that in the planning stages that we've seen, what the next 4 years is going to look like. And we saw some of that tonight with the new housing development. It's one of many housing developments that are going to be going on. And so the community is really moving forward. Graham Street is open. We didn't think that was going to happen for a long time, I think, or at least I did. And so Tarleton, Long Street, and all the rest that are undergoing changes, the brick streets downtown, whatnot, and downtown redevelopment, and as well as the new developments at the stable and all. I mean, it's all fantastic type stuff for this community. We're going to get a chance to do the comprehensive plan here, which was a goal of mine. When I came on the council, I wanted for us to move that direction, and with these people up here, I am so proud to serve with them. Thank you.
Mark?
I want to give a shout out to several people, Nick Williams, Harold, some of the other folks in the building department, Mr. King. I was approached last week by an individual, and over time, every one of those guys has spent a lot of time trying to solve a problem for a single resident of Stephenville. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that they were, each and every one of them, willing to spend the kind of time necessary. I heard before the meeting started tonight that situation had been rectified, and I think that's those guys represent the best of City Hall, Stephenville, Texas. I just really want to say thanks to them.
Yeah. Mr. Cook mentioned Graham Street. I want to give a shout out to Delisi Communications. That project, I'm sure you, was sped up quite a bit because of some contacts we made through that. So I want to shout out for them for that. And I also want to just mention, like Mark has and Gerald has, Stephenville has a really good city council. I've been on council 12 years, I think. And we've had a good council. I appreciate everybody up here and the hard work. For those who don't know, I'm sure most of you know, but everybody on this council up here spends lots of time getting ready for these meetings. And each of the committee chairs particularly spends lots of time with staff and citizens before they bring recommendations to the council. So I want to say thank you. With that, in compliance with the provision of the Texas Open Meetings Law, Subchapter D, Government Code, Vernon's Texas Codes, annotated in accordance with Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, 551.072, Deliberation regarding real property, and 551.071, consultation with attorney. We'll proceed into executive session. We'll come back in a few minutes.
Motion, we approve the salary for the administrative director as presented in executive session.
A second?
Second.
A motion is second, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve and authorize staff to move forward on land acquisitions using any means necessary, including eminent domain for the airport runway expansion project.
Or a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have no other items on the agenda, so it is 7:37. We'll stand adjourned.
Good night.